So the topics I focused on more, I guess, were within the context of design thinking, were manufacturing and the mining industries and implementing design thinking within those sectors. The reason as to why I chose them, I believe that, through exporting more of our raw materials, through mining and having more things to export and creating more things within South African context in terms of manufacturing, just being able to take that step sort of further and forward. But more so just, I believe, in bettering the exporting economy in South Africa. If we're able to do that, it'll attract more investment, and thus being able to allocate funds into different areas and so forth and so forth.
Why should design thinking be used in South Africa?
As I mentioned in my presentation, it's a very relevant topic in South Africa. As we all know, our government has many inefficient and broken structures, and for that particular reason, South Africans need to make the stand in order to learn and come up with more innovative ways that can benefit South Africans in the way of life we live in South Africa specifically, and not, as other people mentioned, grabbing ideas and sort of from other different places and trying to implement them into our country and into our society, but rather having more South African centered products. And yes.
As a 19-year-old, how are you experiencing life in South Africa, and what are some of the things that you would like to see change going forward?
The way I'm experiencing South Africa, so I obviously finished Matric last year, and throughout this year I took a gap year to sort of just figure out exactly what it is, what it is that I like doing. Initially I wasn't for the process, but it definitely helped me in a big way. But throughout that process as well, I tried to look for jobs, and I realized how hard it is to actually get a job in South Africa, and that was a tough thing for me to realize coming from a private school. I went to St. Stephen's College, and just coming from that space, you think that everything is fine, and because I come from the school, it'll be able to benefit me in the best way possible. But getting into the bigger scheme of things, I think it didn't make much of a difference. In fact, rather it only helped in my approach, which is what I believe I learned from the school. It helped my approach and understanding that, okay, fine, I can go about this in many different ways. Let me not give up, and so forth and so forth. And what was the second part of the question?
What would you like to see change going forward in South Africa?
That's a tough question, because there's a lot that's wrong in South Africa, but I think because there's a lot that's wrong, there's the chance for opportunity. So I would like to see a place where everybody is employed, or we have a low employment rate, and our government has proper structures in order to help people actually get jobs. I think it's in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, but the government actually, in Germany, the government actually makes sure, and if you don't have a job, they provide you with sort of a grant until you actually find that job. You just have to prove that you're in the process of actually looking for a job, but the government provide that space for you to to sort of encourage you to find the job as well. Definitely within in light of recent events, the fight against gender-based violence, it's unfortunate that this topic had to come about in light of a tragic event, and Nene being a friend of a friend to me personally, because my friend is friends with her and know her. So it sort of did hit home a bit more in that aspect, and it sort of woke me up because before, not to say that I was oblivious to everything, but that process and what happened sort of woke me up, and a lot of growth happened within that space, and I realized that as a man, in a way, even if I haven't done any big things, just being in an all boys school and sort of that environment, I have in a sense perpetuated that mindset, and I think that's just where I'd like to see a lot of change, where someone can, and a woman especially, can really just be free in their being and in their space and in their living.